have specific questions to give you the opportunity to share what you want to feature in this upcoming edition. But before that, can you please share with our readers a little bit about yourself and why did you embark on this sector at the first place?
Sure. So back in the days before I started studying law, law
Yeah.
was not so the study of law was not allowed for women in Saudi Arabia, and since I was a little kid, I was very interested about law and about the legal systems and the enforceabilities of laws and how much it is involved in our lives, in everything in our lives, right? And a
Mm,
lawyer, basically a lawyer studies everything about everything, right? So because the
yeah.
laws are applicable on everything. So this is why I was super interested to learn about it, and to also because I was also interested to learn more about about religion, basically, or
Mm,
in general. And religion and law in Saudi Arabia are basically the two faces of one currency, and this is
right.
why it was sort of an entwined interest in both of them, right?
Mm,
So when I graduated from school, law was not allowed, as I said, for women. So I decided to go and try and find a university abroad to study law, and then come back and practice in the kingdom. And during that time is when King Abdullah introduced the new law that allows women to study law and to basically not yet practice law, but to study law. So I decided to come back to the kingdom and start studying in the kingdom, studying law. I was the first school of first class of women lawyers to
mm,
graduate under the legal studies umbrella, because
yeah.
there were a few other classes that graduated, but they were not necessarily under law. They were under
Mm,
business, and our program was the first in the kingdom to graduate women. We were 15 students under the umbrella of legal studies, right?
mm,
So my
yes.
bachelor's was on international legal relations and legal studies, which is basically the Sharia law system in Saudi Arabia, as well as a few different legal systems from across the world, including the English common law system, so that we can
Mm,
understand the difference between the civil law system and the common law system. And it was quite interesting to to be the first class, because we had so much spotlight on us, and so many questions were raised at that time, whether they're going to allow women to practice law after graduating, or are we going to be only allowed to practice some sorts or some aspects of law.
mm,
And as we moved from one year to another, from sophomore to freshman to sophomore to junior, we kept hearing gossips about what is going to happen to us, and what will
mm,
we be allowed to, or how are we going to be allowed to practice. And this is where we started a few people, a few students in the university, and myself. We started a group called Lawyers United, or
mm,
well, it's in English it's called Lawyers United. And
right.
our purpose was basically to educate ourselves and our fellow students that are very new in the sector of law, all females, and also to try and advocate for our rights as law students, to be able to practice law fully as equal as men in
Right.
Saudi when we graduate. And of course, we started venturing on to, sending letters to the king, and to the Chamber of Commerce, and to the Committee of Lawyers, the authority that is, in charge of granting lawyers their licenses to practice. And there was a bit of a spotlight from the media on us to ask questions on whether or not uh, we are being successful in our approaches to the government and all that.
Mm,
So it was also a very interesting time, because the vagueness and the unknown was an adrenaline inducer, but as well it was a challenge that you wanted experience and succeed with, right? So
Yes.
a few years later, thankfully, the declaration or the proclamation came from the government, from the king, to allow women to practice and to grant us the licenses similar to exactly equally to men. Of course, in the middle there was a few debates on whether we should only practice family law or only civil law, not criminal law, not there were some suggestions for restrictions, but thankfully that was all rejected, and the king gave us the right to practice
Mm.
as equal as men.
Right.
During my time in university, I was also very active. I was working in multiple projects for Aramco,
Mm.
just to learn about the public, well, to learn about the business and to learn about how to be part of ongoing um, projects in the kingdom and whatnot. So I worked with Aramco over 4 years of my studies in university on their main project was KAUST, and there were other also projects that they worked on. KAUST is the King Abdullah University for Science and Technology. It's a very well-known university in the kingdom, and I was a project leader at sometimes and sometimes a team leader. And so I had very good positions during those projects, and they sort of shaped my young personality at that time.
Mm.
And it was very interesting as well because it was very rare for women to work freely at that time back in the days.
Yes.
So I was also working with the student government inside the university. So I was also active on extracurricular activities. I received the first honor from the dean on my graduation year, and
Mm.
for the number of community service hours conducted during my time in the university for legal studies and for other matters as well. I was also member in multiple clubs in the university, like MUN and otherwise.
Yep.
So it was a very active time in my life. I
Mm.
graduated from bachelor degrees with, as I said, a Bachelor of Legal Studies and International Legal Relations from Dar al Hikmah University. And then I moved to Lebanon. I worked for a construction company of course, a very junior legal counsel. And after that, during that time, I was applying for my master's and
Right.
in the US. When I got accepted, thankfully, it was also a challenge to to convince my parents to send me
Mm.
abroad to study. As a female Saudi girl. So it was a bit of a fight, but thankfully, I was able to go.
Mm.
And so I applied to multiple universities, got accepted in all of them, thankfully. And then I chose University of Southern California, which is a pioneer in the West Coast in the United States for legal studies. And I received two masters from that university, a master's in an LLM, which is a master's in legal studies, and another master's in international business law. After that, I also applied for my PhD in another university, also in California or Los Angeles. It's called Loyola Marymount University. I applied for the JSD or the SJD program, which is the equivalent of PhD but for law.
Yes.
So it's a doctorate degree, and I did my PhD on public policy and the roots of Islamic Sharia or the sources of
Mm.
Islamic Sharia. It was I finished my studies in very short time. So I was the first in my school in my class to graduate from the JSD program.
Right.
So I even had like a ceremony on my own because there were no other students with me.
Yes.
Um, so thankfully that was also very successful. It was I always tell them it was the most difficult thing I ever did in my life, and
Mm.
second to that comes my pregnancy. I'm pregnant now.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
After that, I came back to Saudi Arabia.
Mm.
Um, because of the time I spent during my studies, you know, the long years of studies, I felt like all my peers have sort of passed me in career
Mm.
phase, right? So I decided to put my gear on turbo and kind of try and catch up to them.
Yeah.
But my degrees helped in doing that because, you know, it accelerates your movement
Mm.
in your career because if, you have a bit more knowledge than others in how to conduct things and because of the experience and all that. So I was thankfully able to catch up, sort of, and I'll tell
Mm.
you now how. So when I first came back to the kingdom, I started working for a publicly listed company. It's a financial institution, an insurance company, and
Mm.
I was appointed as, you know, a legal counsel and compliance officer. So it was very interesting because compliance at that time was at its very beginning.
Mm.
In the kingdom, there wasn't such a thing as compliance much, right? Things were not
Yeah.
as um, organized, let's say. So it was very interesting to work for compliance for a publicly listed company because it is super heavily regulated by so
Mm.
many oversight entities, including the central bank, the public market, also because it's an insurance company, the medical authority that oversees insurances and whatnot. So it is very
Mm.
heavily regulated. So it was a very interesting position to learn from. And of course, for as a legal counsel, the cases that are involved and all the legal affairs in that company. I was promoted immediately after a year there to a manager.
Mm.
And in addition to my responsibilities as legal counsel and compliance officer, I became the corporate governance manager. So,
Yes.
um, so it was also my work was with the boards of the board of the company and its committees and all those sorts of things, and of course in relation to the governmental authorities that practice oversight on the company. During that time as well, I was working on the side as a legal counsel for the university that I graduated from, which is Dar al
Mm.
Hikmah, and I was also teaching at the same time. So this is what I meant by putting accelerating my career. I was doing multiple things at the same time just to try and catch up, right? So as I said, in addition to my role in the publicly listed company, I was counsel for the university and for as a general legal counsel and as well as an advisor to the dean and the board
Mm.
of directors. I was also teaching part-time, so for 2 years I was teaching at the university as in addition to my job or in addition to my practice. And
Mm.
I had like a small little business on the side that has nothing to do with law. It was like a clothing line, but you know,
Yes.
during COVID, you come up with so many different ideas, and you're super free, so you come up with
Mm.
projects and stuff like that. Of course, after COVID, I closed it down because there was no time for it.
Right.
Uh, uh, during after my next step after the company, I moved to Nesma, which is my current position.
Right.
Let me give you just a brief on Nesma. Nesma is a conglomerate company. It is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in the kingdom in terms of size as a conglomerate and in
Mm.
terms of diversity. I work for the holding company, which holds directly 46 different subsidiaries that are wholly owned, and then more than 100 different companies and affiliates that are partially owned or as affiliates. And all
Mm.
their legal affairs comes to our department, which is in the head office, the central legal department, and I'm the head of that department.
Mm.
So when I first joined them, as I said, the diversity of the fields that Nesma work in is stunning, honestly. Like they work in from renewable energy, water, infrastructure,
Mm.
construction, cargo, shipments, airlines, marine services, logistics, mining, foods and beverages, you name it basically. Anything you think
Mm.
you may think of is
Yes.
part of the group. And they didn't really have a solid legal department to rely on. So I was the first to come in and build the legal department from scratch for the
Mm.
head for the head office, as well as for some of the big subsidiaries that we have underneath the umbrella of the group,
Yeah.
where I built small departments across the group.
Mm.
Of course, they all come back to the central legal department for oversight and for advice, and uh, and also I was working as the board secretary for 10 of the companies that are in the group. I was also advising on matters of corporate governance for the
Yes.
group. And then I was given, I was in charge of building also the compliance department.
Mm.
So I appointed the head of the department as well as the employees of the department until it started, until the head came and took over, or the manager came and took over. And yeah, basically that's it in a
Mm.
nutshell.
Yes, no, thank you so much. It's a very, very comprehensive sharing on your journey. So from what you shared, I understand that you've gone through so both academia and also the practice world, where you're currently leading a team at NESMA. So
Yeah.
looking back at your career at the very early stage, you mentioned as being one of the first class of women lawyers in the kingdom. So I imagine there must have been a lot of challenges that you encounter as a female lawyers. So how did you navigate the challenges of entering a traditionally male-dominated profession?
It was honestly quite challenging at the beginning because
Mm.
one of the first challenges that we faced was in court, because judges before the new revolution of the judiciary in Saudi Arabia, the judges were very old school. So
Yeah.
it was very difficult for them to comprehend that they have to listen to a woman advocating, not to a woman who is part of the dispute. Do you
Mm.
understand me? So it's because normally a woman who is a part of the dispute has a lawyer that speaks on her behalf, so he doesn't really hear her. But now that lawyer is actually the woman, right? So it was I feel very difficult for them to
Mm.
comprehend this idea and to live with it. So I wouldn't want to go in details about what kind of things we had to face in court at that time,
Yes.
because that would be a very negative thing to mention, but it wasn't easy,
Sure.
honestly. Yeah.
Mm.
Another thing was also going to governmental authorities and to governmental entities to run papers or to follow up on transactions and stuff like that. The employees in those entities did not expect to see a woman, and
Mm.
did not know how to deal with it even. So they would be skeptical about dealing with you, but they know that the government has granted some women to become lawyers, but still they don't know how to deal with them or how to handle them. So it was completely new. We were like the first group that out there
Mm.
to find out how to deal with everything, right? And
Mm.
in terms of recruitment as well, to find a job that people may actually start relying on you as a professional was very challenging, because it is, as I said, still they were not used to the idea, and they would
Mm.
think twice to appoint a lawyer, and then that lawyer may not necessarily be super effective in litigation because the judge is not going to accept her, and in trying to follow up on matters with governmental entities because employees don't understand how to deal with her, and with all those challenges. So it was a
Mm.
challenge on all fronts and all tiers,
Yeah.
but I will tell you, it changed very quickly. So
Mm.
we were expecting that decades and decades are going to pass and we're still where we were, but thankfully I never in my life expected to become head of a department that big and in such a
Mm.
major leadership role in such short time, because
Mm.
women were not given that opportunity back in the days, right? So thankfully, it changed very quickly, and now everything is much, much nicer, thankfully, even in court.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much for sharing that insights. I think as one of the trailblazers for women in law, you have observed kind of a systematic changes in the society where it started to opens up to more female lawyers to enter the world and listens more to them. But I mean, at the same time, you must have also observed there still be a gaps that needs to be addressed in the space. So, in your opinion, what are these gaps be?
For women lawyer or for the legal system in general?
Uh, for women, yes.
I wouldn't say that there are gaps.
Mm,
I would say that most of, see, we have to understand that Saudi Arabia is a tribal country and that it's a very traditional, not tribal is irrelevant, sorry, it's a very traditional country. And
right.
people are set in their own way, even though, and even with the massive change that is happening with the kingdom, still you would
Mm,
find that there are so many traditional uh, areas around the kingdom where people are still set in their own ways. And
right.
if I go as a lawyer and try and run things or try to follow up on things with a male dominant entity or a male
Mm,
dominant business, it's not going to go well, right? But that's
yes.
not something that the system can deal with. It is because the
Mm,
system has dealt with all of those things. King Prince Mohammed bin Salman has advised that he wants a certain percentage of women to be working in the workforce during a very short period of time. He wants women to
mm,
be in leadership positions, and this all happened, right? So the system, I don't think it's really a gap in the system as much as it is a gap in time. We need some
mm,
time for the entire kingdom to adapt to this new change, and everything will fall back in place, in my opinion.
mm. Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. So I want to switch the gears a bit and understand more about your current roles and your work at Nesma. So can you share with us, what steps do you take to ensure a robust regulatory compliance framework at the company that you work, particularly navigating very complex interactions between internal processes and external regulatory requirements?
Of course. So the compliance department, as I said, has been um, I was in charge of building the department, but then it has
Mm,
been moved over to its new head. So I don't
right.
get involved much in compliance, but by default, as a legal department, we have to work with compliance slightly and with corporate governance slightly. But I'm going to tell you about the other challenge, the other
Sure.
responsibilities that we have in the department. We handle everything from litigation to dispute resolution with all its different kinds, for whether arbitration, litigation, mediation, you name it.
Mm,
Uh, we handle as well all transactions, whether small transactions from business to business transactions or big transactions involving bids and tenders with the government with governmental projects, where one of our companies is bidding for one of those projects. So we start preparing for the documentations. We start partnering up with different partners, whether local or international partners, for the big power projects or big other projects. We run all the legal documentations, we draft them,
mm,
we review them, we prepare the files for them, and then also advise post submission of such bids. We also provide the legal consultations on a variety of different matters that has to do with legal affairs for all the companies in the group with all their diversity and all their different fields of operation. We also conduct internal interrogation with employees whenever necessary, involving, of course, manipulation matters or labor disputes or whatever.
mm,
We also conduct that in house. We handle all the labor consultations, labor litigations, and labor disputes and settlements. We um, what else? So basically everything you can think of for a legal. So we're sort of a law firm, but for Nesma Group. Okay, so we
Mm.
practice everything that has to do with the law, but for NESMA Group. And of course, for the board of directors on a quarterly basis, we prepare analysis on all the changes in the law to
Yeah.
provide to the board of directors and explain to them the impact of that change on the companies and what needs to be done to mitigate risks and damages and what needs to be changed for different departments and different companies and whatnot.
Mm. Got it. Yes. So in terms of updating on the new involving corporate laws, financial regulations, and risk management practices, can you share with us a little bit about your approach to staying updates of the new development in this field and how this knowledge has transferred to your approach to legal strategy for NESMA?
Of course. So the changes in the legal system are normally known online, basically, because, as I said, the kingdom has been digitized entirely, and especially for the legal system. So so the Ministry of Justice has digitalized all of its affairs and all of
Mm,
its transactions. So you can find out about the new laws that are coming out or the new changes in the laws through those portals, the governmental portals, and
mm,
this is how we learn about them. And normally, the government gives you a deadline or a grace period for you to fix your situation or fix your status in the company to become compliant with the new changes in the law. Uh, so we immediately start working on that with the compliance department and with the corporate department to try
mm,
and make sure that all our constitutional documents are in compliance. Whenever they need any legal assistance with bringing those matters into compliance, we help them with that. And uh, and sometimes, honestly, we also try to change those laws. So we would try to send letters to the Minister of Justice and to the Minister of Commerce to explain an issue that we are facing, say, for example, with IP law, because it is also one of the new laws, and,
mm,
explain to them what kind of challenges we are facing as a group of companies and how those challenges can be addressed by the implication of laws and by the enactment of laws, and hoping that we will be heard. And of course, there is the also, whenever there's a law that's coming out soon, they would
mm.
they would publish it for the public to provide their opinion. So we also try to do that as well.
Yes, got it. So staying very close with the government and new developments in the kingdom, right? Yes, got it. So I want to end this interview with a more advising question. So if you look back, what were the key insights or lessons from your career that you would like to share with young, aspiring legal professionals, especially female professionals aiming to excel in this field?
In all honesty, from my own experience, and that's something that nobody told me about, that I
Mm,
discovered on my own, is don't wait for work to come to you. You have to fight for it. You may be appointed into a role that is much smaller than your size, and you can make it as big as you want
mm,
with the right attitude and with the right work um, uh, with the right enthusiasm and motivation, right? So, regardless, I don't allow people to decide who you are or to decide
mm,
what's your role. I think it is in our own hands to decide that by how we deal with the responsibilities that are given to us, and to take or to fill places that are much bigger than what has been given to us.
mm,
And this is how, honestly, I was able to maneuver through a very short time career, but has so
yeah.
much in such a short time.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey with us today. I
Thank you.
think it really, really shows your vision and ambition for the career and your professional journey. And I love to understand about it as I did in this conversation. Thank you so much. We will surely will feature you as one of the visionary legal counsels in our upcoming edition, and look forward to receiving your feedback in our draft. Yeah, thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much. Thank you for your time and thank you for
Mm.
listening and for your questions. It was very good to talk to you. Of course, again, this recording is not for publishing. It's only
No,
for
yes,
drafting purposes.
yeah,
And thank you for your time. Thank you very
yes.
much.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye bye. You
Yes.
too.